One thing that I've noticed that we are in the lack of in modern gaming are great first-person shooter campaigns. Back in the day, these were an absolute staple in first-person shooters, with games being heavily criticized over a lack of one or one that was simply not good. Long gone are the days of iconic campaigns from games like Halo, Call of Duty, or Battlefield. But one that's up there with some of the greats and one that I believe is somewhat forgotten today is Titanfall 2's campaign. I played it for the first time in 2024 and was blown away by how good it was. And I think in a time where we are lacking top tier first person shooter campaigns, it is a great time to look at one of the best ever and see what made it so good. Before we really get into things, if you guys enjoyed this video, it would mean a lot if you could like, comment, and subscribe as we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. And there will be spoilers throughout this video, so be warned. With that being said, let's get right into things. Titanfall 2 was released nearly a decade ago at this point, with it coming out in late 2016. I constantly state this about games that were released around this time period, but there must have been something in the water. Because each game released in these years holds up immaculately to modern standards, and I could easily be convinced that they were released today if I knew nothing about it. Graphically and from a gameplay perspective, Titanfall 2 is still some of the best stuff out there. But touching on the story real quick, basically in summary, the plot of Titanfall 2 is that you play as a militia rifleman known as Jack Cooper. You are thrust into a battle very quickly, and in this your mentor, Captain Lastimosa, dies. So in the quick succession of his death, you must succeed him as a pilot and partner with his Titan BT-7274. We embark on this journey with BT to take out the IMC and stop their fold weapon, which could potentially destroy whole planets. The IMC is a massive corporation whose goal is to get resources and dominate the frontier. We are a part of the militia frontier who is fighting against the IMC and fighting for the freedom and independence of the frontier's inhabitants. But in my personal opinion, the story is not where this game shines by any means. It's not bad at all, don't get me wrong, but in the grand scheme of things it is a very basic plotline of stopping the big evil bad guy, and we're the lowly freedom fighters trying to stop them. I honestly think narratively is the only thing stopping this game from potentially being the best first person shooter campaign ever. I personally think there are two different aspects that make Titanfall 2 shine, and that first aspect is its level design. There are a total of 9 different levels throughout this campaign over the course of 5 to 7 hours. And it is truly some of the best level designing I have ever seen. Each mission feels so unique from the last, and you experience so many different gameplay elements, environments that you never feel as if you're repeating anything ever. The first 3-ish missions don't have the craziest of variety, but it does a really good job of getting you acclimated to the game with how it functions and introducing you to the movement, the gunplay, and the Titans. But mission 4 and onwards, one after another, introduces something new and keeps you engaged throughout. Every single mission from 4 onwards just got me more and more hooked into this game, and I ended up being the entire thing in one night. The first one, you get separated from BT and you have to traverse through this factory with moving pieces, and the traversal throughout was so enjoyable, and fighting enemies as you were moving around was so much fun. And the following mission is one of my favorites maybe ever. The ability to travel through time and go back and forth and having 2 different fights simultaneously with one another is one of the coolest things I've ever done in a video game. I actually felt like the greatest character of all time. Going between 2 different moments in time in the same locations, having to go back and forth and solve puzzles and fight enemies was executed to perfection. And you don't see level designing like this too often. It was impeccable. And the rest of the story holds this high standard of level design, from using different tools to traverse through locations, jumping from ship to ship while they're flying in the sky, find different titans in the most insane locations. The level design in Titanfall 2 is some of the greatest that I've ever seen. And the other part of Titanfall 2 that is so special to me is its gameplay. I knew I was going to enjoy it as I was an avid fan of Apex Legends and was addicted to that for a long time. And I was not disappointed in the slightest with this. Starting with the movement, it is so fast paced and fluid. From the start of the game, running across the walls of mountains and traversing through different locations made the gunplay so enjoyable. And the gunplay had a great amount of variety, with there being so many different guns to use. I was constantly switching out one gun for another and rarely had one for a long period of time. It kept things so fresh switching between them. I loved using a sniper from long distance, then switching it out for a shotgun and moving in close range, then picking up an SMG and finishing them off that way. What made Apex so enjoyable to me was its gameplay, and that's the same exact thing for Titanfall 2. Its gameplay stands out as some of the best out there in first-person shooters, and is arguably the best, as a lot of them don't have this level of movement and level design to make it this fun. And to top it all off, we have the Titans. This is the cherry on top for the gameplay. When you combine the movement, the gunplay, and the Titan into one fell swoop, it creates some of the most enjoyable sequences out there. And with the Titans, you unlock so many different abilities throughout the entirety of the campaign, which constantly adds something new to the gameplay. You can shoot lasers, rockets, you can use a sword, there are abilities to have shields, abilities to trap or stun other Titans, and there are so many other abilities that you can unlock. There are a total of 6 different Titans, and each one has 4 abilities with a core ability that requires a charge up. It is so much fun being in these massive Titan battles, constantly switching between all 6 classes and just destroying all of them with completely different moves from the last. The gameplay in Titanfall 2 might just be the best ever in any first person shooter. But this game is not perfect. Like I've already stated, the story is nothing special, just satisfactory in my opinion. The best part about it by far is the dynamic between BT and yourself. But the actual plotline is very simple. It does not take away from the game whatsoever though. And the only other notable complaint I have with this game are the boss fights. I really only remember liking one of them throughout the entire story, and that was the one against Viper. I wish the boss fights were a bit more interesting instead of basically a Titan fight just with ones with more health. But for those to be the only complaints I have for this campaign shows how good it really is. Touching on how this game ends though, it is very well done and emotional. Like I've already stated, BT and Jack's dynamic is great in this game, and in the final moments they make a sacrifice to take out the fold weapon. But in the last seconds, BT ejects Jack so he can get away to safety, and then BT uses his core to destroy the weapon and save everyone. It is a beautifully well done ending and one that got me emotional. But in the final scene, it seems like BT is still alive in some way, hinting at a future game, which we have still yet to get. I desperately hope to see Titanfall 3 come out someday and expand on this story again. But not just for the story, from what I heard this had an amazing multiplayer to go along with it. They've spent years upon years supporting Apex, which I can't be too annoyed about as it was my favorite battle royale to ever come out. But at this point in time we really should be getting a third Titanfall. It is a shame that we haven't yet and that this fanbase has been left to the wayside and forgotten about. I really hope Titanfall 3 somehow happens one day as we need another campaign like this one. Titanfall 2 is one of the special first-person shooter campaigns. I loved it from start to finish. And even with it only being 5 to 7 hours, it is worth it in every way. Respawn Entertainment focused on quality over quantity and it showed. Every second of this campaign is beautiful and there's no moment that slows the rest of the game down. This shows that modern games don't all have to be this big massive open world with bloated content just to get more hours in the game. I would much rather something on a shorter playtime like this with every single thing having a meaning behind it instead of an empty open world experience. We are in a lack of great first person shooter campaigns and Titanfall 2 is honestly some of the last of its kind to be that good. So here's to hoping one day we get a third game or just some more first person shooter campaigns that can live up to the standard that Titanfall 2 was able to set. My final rating of Titanfall 2 is an 8.5 out of 10. I adore this game from start to finish and highly recommend you give it a go if you haven't yet. If you guys made it to the end of this video, thank you guys so much for watching. Your support means the absolute world to me. If you did make it to the end, it would mean a lot if you could like, comment, and subscribe as we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Again, your guys' support means the absolute world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and God bless.